Hi Ramon, I'm just going to make a quick tutorial video for the IncisionModel tool that we've built. So I'm just going to the right folder here. The tool itself is called IncisionModel here. This is GUI. So let's just start it by typing the name. Oops, close this. Okay, so you have this GUI, and I just tested and modified it to also work on Windows without any issues. So here you see the GUI. As before, it's color-coded to give you some idea of the steps you have to go through. So first you set up the surface, then you set up the channel and storm parameters. You can then also do the offset parameters, default and the earthquake catalogs, and then they will combine it all to start the model down here. But I'm just gonna start. The parameters themselves should be pretty self-explanatory, so not going over them too much. First thing you just have to do is press the button here, plot surface model. So that will generate the DM. Put this here. View. So far you can't really see the surface pattern, the flow patterns, so we might as well just use this button, next. It takes a moment, so now you see it. So then you could say, yeah, I want to, for example, investigate how this channel here behaves over some period of time and earthquake record. If you don't like the DM itself, you just have to press this button again, and of course have the new random seed on, and then do the flow pattern again. Yep. So here you have the cutoff value for the drainage area. If you want to make these channels more or less short, so let's say we change this value to 4000 and show again. You can see they got shorter. Let's maybe take this one now. So here you can also then define how you want to have your incision events, your storm events occurring. You can either use a power law distribution for them or characteristics. So far I mostly used actually that's not really true, I use both. But anyways, you can just choose power law, and here you have these two factors, or these two parameters, which is a shift factor and the scale factor. You kind of think of the law that's used here as f of x equals a times x to the power of b. So one of these parameters is a and one of them is b. So where's the GUI? Here it is. Okay, so just to show how this works, you can then plot the storm frequency. So that means here you would have, for example, a time, it's in years. You have a 100-year flood, and the 100-year flood would generate roughly 45 liters per square meter. If you now change these values, for example, to 3 and plot again, you can see how this shifts, or if you do change this one, you can see the different shapes. So you can adjust it depending on your liking in a way. But this only applies for the part when you use power law. If you do the characteristic, it just takes these values. So in this case, for example, I have an incision event every 100 years, and its strength is to have 50 liters per square meter during that event as rainfall. Yeah. So maybe make this a different one. Maybe make it 40 or so. And then once you have decided on these values, you generate a storm catalog. It could look like this. One thing, I just did this again, you can see a time again. It goes up to 1000 years. That number comes from your simulation time down here. So once I say I do want to simulate only 500 years, and you generate a new catalog, you can see now it's 500 years. Okay. Next step would be, one thing here, you can see there's this cutoff to have an incision event. That's the value, that's the liter per square meters value again. So only if your incision event has more volume than what's given here, you will have actually an incision event occurring. It's not so much important for the characteristic incision, assuming that this value here is higher than that one, but for the power law it's important. So just to show you the difference, if we look at the catalog here, now we have quite a few actually. Let's see, maybe. Okay. Oh yeah, because I increased these values so much. So here you can see now how this changes. So if I do say my cutoff is then, I can say everything is cut off basically. This is my events, and only the ones with 40 liters or more are kept. So now let's say make this 20 liters, and you get more events. Okay, but now let's assume we take the characteristic and generate catalog. So this is used now. You have to do this step. Next, you can decide on the area you want to actually investigate. So you just click this button and then outline the area you want to investigate. For example, here. Important thing I mentioned before is that the computational cost is quite high, I would think. So you have to make sure that your size here is not too small but also not too big. So here you can see the number of DM points that are used. And this is a 250 or 300 is a pretty small number, but that will definitely work easily. In here, if the incision parameters, basically saying what happens if an incision occurs. So we can here have the angle, can change or modify the angle to the channel riser with the horizon, give it some variability. You can also then here set the backfill amount, and now I changed it to that these values are relative to whatever was in size in that particular last incision event, and then you can backfill by this level, so it would be 100%, but even more, so you could also put 150% or something else, for example. Here you can still also see a reference storm event. That is, the way this works is that I have here my strength. In this case, every incision event comes with 50 liters per square meter. So here I have my reference is 10, so it's a factor of 5 difference. What this means then is, when you think of this law, that the code then basically it treats the area as if the area would be 5 times as large, or basically the volume is 5 times as large. Yeah. So we have already the catalog generated here. Next thing to do, I think I keep these values basically the same for now. What you can see here though is important is the surface re-roughening factor after diffusion. I do it 1 right now, so it's a factor, so it's the percentages of really the factor is multiplied with it. So 1 should hopefully keep the roughness basically the same that I used for the generation of the initial model. Let's quickly do the define a fault trace. So let it run here. Here you can also define then what kind of earthquakes you want to have produced. You can have a characteristic, in which case it takes this magnitude and this recurrence, or you can use Gutenberg Richter. In that case you have to define the A value, the activity of the fault, and the range of magnitudes that are used. You also have to define overall a minimum magnitude to actually have an offset event. And after you've decided what to do here, for example, if I use a 4, this is really the A value, and then generate an earthquake catalog, you can see, with that given activity, I had actually just 1 event occurring, or maybe another one, or here 2, because this is really randomly picking from the statistics. So now let's say make this activity 5. You can see I have a lot more events in that magnitude range, which is shown here. But I want to do a characteristic, and let's make it 120 years or so, for example, and generate the catalog. So you can see I have 4 events within these 500 years. You have the rake in here. I haven't really played with this so much, but it's possible to do so. And this is some other parameters that tell you, that basically define how fast the incision is, how well this is constrained. I basically never really change these values. So the next thing you would do is just plus the button. And I would do that and then start a new video for the following stuff. Where's my video? Stop.